Hey folks, I know I started off with Start Me Up once before and a bunch of drop D riffs, but I got a kind of a reason that I started off with it before I get into this episode. It's because I've watched some people play this one, and the way you're playing it makes me cry sometimes. Not that I'm the best guitar player in the world or should be giving anybody lessons, but Keith Richards, obviously, is one of my favorite players. Not because he's great, he's just cool. He looks cool. But no, the Stones did write some iconic tunes throughout their career. They had one or two major hits and sold a couple records, played a couple shows, you know. The kids tell me they were pretty good back in the day. But when people are playing it, the thing they do is they play it in standard, and it's in an open G tuning. And one of the things that Keith Richards always does with his open G tuning, well, obviously, you haul your A or whatever down to G, but he flattens that B a little bit. There's a couple guitar players that do that. Eddie Van Halen always did it when he played like Running with the Devil. It was like, see, it sounds in tune. Whereas when it isn't flattened, it kind of doesn't. But John Frusciante, or however you pronounce his last, Frusciante, or whatever, he does it as well with Scar Tissue when he's doing that octave part, which is why when you play it at home, it doesn't sound right, because he flattens his B a little bit. And you're thinking to yourself, well, I got to get a new tuner. And so that's just my lesson today. It's in an open tuning. Not, that's the Cult, okay? That's Love Removal Machine. And I saw guys play it like this. That was terrible. That was a bad night for me and for humanity in general. But anyway, let's get into something serious now we're going to talk about today, and that's equipment when you're playing out live. Okay? If you're doing gigs and you're playing clubs and you're playing a lot of gigs, you got to keep your equipment in check. You also have to have moderately great equipment. You don't need to go out on stage with a $4,000 Strat to sound good. It sounds good, but are you really going to drag a $4,000 Strat into a bar where it's got a chance of getting beer thrown at it and you're playing in front of 3 people? That's up to you. And if you do and you got the money to do that, that's great. I don't. I'm also not that guy who says that guitar player was no good because he only plays an old Squire, which is what I got here right now. But it plays well and sounds great and moderately priced. But you do need to have equipment that's reliable. How's that? So whether it's something you built yourself out of parts or fished out of a dumpster, it's got to be looked after. It needs regular maintenance, tubes need to be changed, guitars need to be set up, and you need to buy equipment that's going to facilitate endless amounts of gigs, right? So you wouldn't drive your car across the island if it was like down to this much oil in your bass pan, would you? No. So you need to actually look after your guitars. Amps need to be tuned, and you need to have, and you know what? Some guys are going out now and buying these Fender amps that are solid state, Tone Masters or something, I'm not sure. And they sound great. The Boss Katanas sound great. Guys aren't even using amps. They're using shit on the floor. Kempers, Boss GT 1000s. Sounds great. And if it sounds good, it is good. But you still have to look after it. Storage after the gig, traveling with it, keep it in cases that fit, unlike me, and things so it won't get broken. You get to the gig and your headstock's cracked off. That would be pretty shitty. Keep a toolkit with you at all times, because you might need to fix something. And I covered this before in the whole gig bag thing. But after so many gigs, like at least maybe a couple times, maybe once a year, it doesn't hurt to get the old guitar set up. If you want to keep your intonation great. Keep your tubes when you start noticing things about your amp, making like popping sounds. If you're getting feedback sounds when the amp is completely turned down, you need to change your tubes. At the end of the day, you're going to sound better, and it's going to enhance your overall pleasure of playing your gig, and you're going to play better. When you sound good, you play good. And you play good because you sound good, if that makes sense. That was actually from Dave Murray and Iron Maiden. When I was a teenager, I read that in a Guitar World magazine, and he said when he sounds really good and he has a full sound that he likes, he tends to play longer and practice better and meet that regiment. So keep your gear, keep the heads on your drums changed over, keep them clean, keep those snare chains tight, and keep them new as much as you can. Also get a good reliable guitar tuner. That's very important as well. Bass players, you guys never change your strings. Let's face it, you don't. You just don't. Okay? And don't sit there and go, well, I change mine all the time. You don't. Okay? It's very, very important to have good equipment. Another thing is don't go to a gig with one pick. All right? Because chances are you're going to lose it. The tip isn't pointy anymore. Extra strings, you break a string, you're going to have an extra guitar, hopefully. But if you break a string and you're only using your backup, you could break the string on that and then you got nothing, okay? I've had that happen once, believe it or not, in all the years I've been playing, where I broke a string live and I had to swap out a string during break. But my spare guitar made it to break. But I wouldn't just play the rest of the show with that one guitar. I've always got a spare pack of strings in my case, always. Strings, picks. If you're using battery-operated stuff like wireless systems, like I used to use, but like in-ear systems especially, you really need to keep spare batteries on hand, and don't have them in your gig bag. You don't want to go over rooting around a gig bag between songs. Different if it's between a set and you got 30 minutes to go do it, that's fine. But you don't really want to go rooting through a backpack or whatever looking for batteries. Fresh set of batteries in the equipment you're using, and a brand new set like on the floor around your mic stand, or if you've got one of those really cool accessory table thingies, trays, put them there. At least then you don't have to go digging them out. So the key of this whole lecture, me talking at you, keep your gear in good shape. It's the only way you can do it. Like I said, if you got a guitar that keeps going out of tune, people are going to get fed up after a while. And they noticed that. I had a guitar one time that was really buzzy at a gig, and the bouncer came up and told us that a couple were on their way home, and he was in fear that they were going to drown the kids in the bathtub because my single coils were buzzing. You don't want that at the end of the day, right? And bouncers know everything about music because they work in the bar. Remember that, okay? Anyway, that's it for me. God love you, bouncers. We would probably have shittier shows without you. That was just a dig at that one guy, because some of you guys are great and professional, trust me. But that guy just kind of hit me the wrong way that night. Anyway, that's it for me. So support those shows, folks. Get out there. Hug a musician. That's all. Stay safe.